last week on the Nicoletti Show. Without further ado, let's welcome into the show, Tom. Let's go.
I understand that spending time with the wrong people is like trying to go swimming without getting wet. It's not happening.
If you haven't been in the game, how can that be somebody that you want to learn from? Because you don't know what kind of experience that they had, and they've had none.
You want to pour into me and you want to really guide me? I'm looking for personal results. Never partner when you can hire. A real partnership is a person that you can't hire.
But are all partnerships something that you want to be a part of?
When you are going to get into a partnership, if you're going to do it, you have to start with what I'm not going to do. Because if not, it's going to fail, and it's really going to fail if you make money. No one has ever gotten burnout from working hard. You get burnout from working and not moving. If you want to get off the hamster wheel and really start making progress, even if it's slow, as long as you're moving forward and you're making actual progress moving forward, it begins with humility and honesty.
You're the man. I really appreciate you.
So thank you for having me on. I'm honored, and I'm as big of a fan of you. So thank you for always bringing the energy and the information, the instruction that I need to succeed in all of our peers and colleagues. You're a rock star and a lighthouse in our industry, so I'm honored to be on this show with you, brother.
And welcome, everybody. Another live 9 p.m. Eastern on a Wednesday night. You all are in for a treat tonight with Colleen Pacheco's episode. You got to stay tuned. If you missed any of that episode last week, rewind, check it out. There's always so much value in these episodes. And what's so rewarding is hearing people that will reach out to me and I'll speak to them. I'll find them at an event, a RIA meeting, or they'll email me and they'll say, hey, I heard that episode with so-and-so. This is so valuable because a lot of people listen to these episodes and there's all these tips and tricks for people to implement in their business, their life, and it really helps. And I can tell that it's working for people. So scan the QR code. You can find all the episodes on the Nicoletti Show, all the seasons that are there, and all the content on probate, partitions, quiet title, all the crazy stuff in real estate. And you don't want to miss any of that. And tonight we got another amazing episode with Colleen Pacheco. She is in the insurance industry. She's down in the Orlando area, and we're going to dive in on what's going on in the insurance industry, especially with the hurricanes that had just come through last year and what it means for flooding and all types of other insurance as we go. So I'm really intrigued to hear about this. I got my pen and paper, and as I always say, please feel free to engage, comment, ask questions, because at the end of the day, it's about you all. We want to ask and answer your questions because this is the guest that you want to learn from when we get into the insurance industry. So I got my pen, I got my paper, and let's rock this thing. Hey everybody, my name is Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida, and welcome to the Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their communities that educate, entertain, and inspire all things on Florida real estate. And we will always bring the best in the industry to you, no matter what area they're in. Real estate adjacent, whether an Airbnb, commercial, marketing, insurance, branding. We want to provide the best guests on how you can take your company to the next level. On my show today, I have Colleen Pacheco. She is the insurance lady that talks all about insurance. She's at the networking meetings in Orlando, and she's going to dive in on what's happening in the insurance industry today, what you need to know for insurance for real estate. And we're going to get into certain personal developments, goals, business ambitions, and things that she's been going through to talk about this for a lot of people that can help inspire you all out there. So without further ado, let's welcome Colleen to the show. Colleen, great to see you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Your energy is amazing. So you're getting me excited.
Great.
Thank you.
Love it. And thank you for having me on your podcast, which we'll definitely plug. That was a lot of fun. When we were on, we're talking about probate, and really appreciate the time that we got to share doing that. Colleen, for those that don't know, give a little background of you and how you got into the industry you're in right now.
Okay, perfect. So thanks for having me again and joining me back in October. So I've been in the insurance industry for about 25 years, so a really long time. And I got into it because my parents owned an insurance agency. So in high school, I would go help them answer phones, file, and do things like that. After I got married and had my son, I just continued in it. And I actually helped my parents grow their agency, and they were able to retire and sell it in 2018. So it's, I don't want to say family or in my blood, but my whole family's basically in insurance. And that's how I got into it. And I sadly fell in love with the industry and helping people. So that's why I'm in it.
It's in your genes, it's in your bloodline.
In my blood.
And that's so great to hear that because you come from that background. So you've been immersed in this stuff for years, and your parents probably talked about it, and anybody that came before them. And the fact that you're also interested in it is great. When we were talking about what we're going to get into on the show, I want to make sure we save the best for right in that middle to end with the insurance industry. Talk about like your personal development and in your business goals for where you're at with your business. Like, what are you doing that's game changing for you? What are some of those ambitions?
So game changing is in 2018, my parents sold their business and I went to work with the company that they sold it to. And whereas I was very excited to work for a big corporation, I realized shortly into it, it was different and I wasn't really being heard and supported. So I ended up leaving, going out on my own with a couple of partners. And then shortly into that, I realized it was kind of similar. Even though I was with partners on my own, I was with people who really weren't, listening. Great people, but they weren't listening and they weren't like hearing hearing my passion. And they're always like, "Oh, you work so hard, you do this." And I'm like, "Well, I'm passionate about this. And to help something grow and bloom, you have to put a lot into it." So I decided to take a leap and just get rid of them all, and I'm just on my own, and I'm able to nurture and grow the employees who work with me. And I really feel like I can inspire them, starting with young people who maybe don't know what they want to do in life, but they realize if you work hard you can get somewhere. So for me, I'm just passionate about keeping my brand going and keeping my energy and being able to help my clients hands-on. And I feel like that's important. People can call me and they know like I'm going to talk to them. I'm not going to push them to somebody else. It's going to be me. And I feel like in today's world, it's sometimes not like that.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. And the fact that you care about them and that you want to see them succeed and you want to see them grow, you're pouring into them, which is one of the most important factors to growing a business, is making sure that the people under you are growing and supported and feel like they're being treated the right way. And one thing that you mentioned before I get to some internal processes, because a lot of people forget, like, yeah, you may be in insurance, but you're a business owner. And like,
Right.
it's like a lot of people are in real estate, but they forget that it's also business, and you got to learn how to run a business at the same
Correct.
time and also do real estate. So you mentioned one key word that really stuck out to me because I've thought about it recently, and it's so important when you have so much going on, when you have people that are depending on you, when you have to come in every single day and bring that same energy. How are you able to sustain that energy? What are you doing to make sure you have that energy every day to pour back into your team? Because a lot of entrepreneurs, they'll go, and then they'll do a burnout because they don't have a structure together. They don't have a routine together. So what are you doing to make sure that you keep your energy on a high level?
So I try to exercise every day to keep my energy up, even if it's something small for 10 minutes. 10 minutes helps a lot. It counteracts the stress, within your body. I don't smoke. I don't drink a lot. I try to limit caffeine because overall you may feel like you're getting energy from it. It's a crash later on. And I try to do something positive for myself every day. Like I said, only if it's 10 minutes, it's better than nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with everything you said. Only thing is, I'm not abiding by the caffeine thing tonight. So that's the only
It'll keep
thing.
you up. It'll
Yeah,
keep you up at night.
well,
Mhm.
I gotta have the energy for the show at night, right? So
Exactly.
that's that. But everything that you said is really important. So many things in there. But let me ask you this question, Colleen. On your internal side with your business, um, are you doing like weekly team meetings? Like, how are you keeping the team encouraged and inspired and to keep them motivated? Because, it's really easy to go day after day, week after week, just pounding the pavement in business and getting, inundated with phone calls and this issue, this fire, that, as a whole, it can be very draining. So how do you keep everybody on that positive side? Do you do quarterly lunches? Do you do anything like that? Any type of trainings?
Mhm. Well, I bless my staff. I buy them breakfast and lunch every day because I feel like you, I want them to feel loved and, nurtured, and I don't want them to feel rushed or feel stressed about packing a lunch or whatever. So we order food every day. We try to make it healthy choices and things like that. We have a refrigerator here with healthy drinks all day, and we have snacks and gum and candies, just things to keep us going. If anybody's stressed out, they can always come to my office. It's a safe place and they can vent. For the most of the time, it's me screaming in here, but
Always a
because
business
I
owner.
because I'm an empath, so I take everybody's stress, including my clients, all on myself. But I try to just know, like, if someone's struggling, I can pretty much tell, and I'm just like, it's okay, go take a time out. Hmm.
Yeah. Heavy is the head that wears the crown, right?
Yeah,
That's it.
true.
Well,
Hmm.
let me get into this. The insurance side of things is really a hot topic right now in our industry. More than ever, I hear a lot of investors talk about how what a great deal it is, but what are the insurance rates going to be?
Hmm.
And also, when Hurricane Ian came through, after that happened, a lot of insurance companies pulled out, or then they raised their rates. And I'm thinking, down in Cape Coral, Naples, Charlotte
Hmm.
County, and a lot of investors are skeptical with getting into deals because of insurance. And then what do you know, next 2 years later, another double whammy, two hurricanes in a row come same side, and it causes more issues. So I think as a whole, this is a really hot topic for people to know, especially if you're investing in Florida. And maybe if you're not investing in Florida, like at least, you'll get some little tidbits here. But for those that are really trying to get into this, especially in the Southwest, West Florida, what do people need to know, Colleen, about the insurance side of things and where things stand right now?
Yeah. So my favorite topic, insurance. So where it stands right now is we're still in what they called a hard market, meaning underwriting's hard, pricing's hard, insurance carriers are hard to come by. And we've been approaching that and in that for like the last 5 years. So right around 2020, right or so when COVID happened, is when this started happening, where the rates really took a dump. A jump up, and everybody started noticing. Before, it was never really an issue, and the reason is because sadly the rates were too low for a long time, and they really weren't underwriting and guiding that and checking it as they should have been. And so with that happened, when the roofing crisis happened, with after like the hurricanes from 2016, 17, and 18, it was like a couple years later that the roofing influx really took a dive and then jump up. Everybody started getting a new roof, and then if they didn't get the new roof, they were maybe suing the insurance company, and all of those lawsuits were put on the insurance company's books. Like all of those costs, the legal costs, the court costs, the insurance company for the homeowners or the property owners had to pay for it. So the claims aren't really what makes the prices go up, it's the lawsuits. um,
Mm.
those litigations and fraud. It's like I always say, there's 3 steps here to the insurance crisis: fraud, litigation, and responsibility, and being irresponsible. And when I say, responsibility, I put it on the insurance company, because first and foremost, the client's paying for that product. they're going to pay what it is. So if it's a $500 policy and it should have been a $1,000 policy, they're going to pay the $500 policy. And then the cost, if they don't like the results for their claim, they may get an attorney because their friend got one next door and they were able to get their roof and some things done in their house. So they're probably going to file that same suit and go ahead. And then a policy that should have been this price is still going to be that price. The lawsuit's still going to cost the same amount. Their roof and all those other repairs are still going to cost that. So the insurance companies, it works both. If they had been, responsibly underwriting and charging, and then maybe responsibly handling those claims, the rates wouldn't have gone up so high. If the fraud was a little bit less, and I'm not talking about every claim isn't a fraud. We know there's sinkhole frauds, car accident frauds, roofing frauds. There's all of those, injury frauds at work, all of those things, but it all ties together to the insurance industry. So those are the main points. If people can recognize those, they'll realize that it's a business, and that's why the rates are so high, and why those companies left is because they didn't have the funds to adequately support those claims and support their company, coming up. So it's a battle. And then the hurricane in 2022 didn't help, with Ian, because they were still in the process of hammering out some of these laws and how they were going to handle claims, how they were going to handle, roofing type situations and things like that. And so those claims could have, came in, people didn't like the results. Maybe they got an attorney, maybe not. And then if they filed it before this date, they still had to honor it. So those are still going on. Companies are still having to pay out claims. They may not have the money. So now we have more companies leaving. And then fast forward to 2024, when we actually had in Florida, the 3 hurricanes. It's just the first one that hit wasn't as extreme as Helene and Hurricane Milton. And then, the water damage, the graphic wind damage that we had, the tornadoes that hit the other side of the state where the storm was, it's just a recipe for disaster going on. So, and needless to say, it's going to be a rocky territory price-wise for probably the next couple years.
Where do you see rates going over the next couple of years?
I don't see them elevating. I see them kind of holding steady. And like I tell people all the time, even if they drop 20%, it's still not going to be noticeable for many people, because if you have a $4,000 premium, 20% is a small amount. You're not going to see that monthly, yearly in your, payments and your expenses. Right. So when an investor, like you said, the main thing, or even a homeowner who's buying a home, the main thing is, can I afford this house? But more or less, can I afford the insurance that comes along with it? Because the insurance is just part of it, and it's something that you need. So it's more or less them picking an area that's going to be less expensive for them if they really are insurance price sensitive, and then picking a property that's maybe newer, has a lot of upgrades, so the insurance could be affordable. And then there's other things that people can do on the insurance themselves to make it less expensive, but they have to take some of the risk on themselves.
And I was going to get there too, about like ways, what are the ways that you can lower some of the premiums and lower some of the expenses when it comes to insurance. Mm-hmm. But before we get into that, it's a really interesting topic. I had a guest on for season 5, Paul Eisel, and at the end of the episode, he put up charts about the foreclosure, where foreclosures were. And we don't have them right this second, but I remember there was a certain pie chart or a bar, one of those charts that he put out that basically said part of the issue of why there could be foreclosures is insurance rates, because people just can't pay the insurance or the premiums because they've gone up, and basically referring to some of the areas like Cape Coral, Naples. Yes. And that would probably happen, eventually in St. Pete and that Sarasota market. But it's really interesting to see, because that wasn't a concern 10 years ago. And like you said, that litigation that keeps coming up with insurance was a big sticking point 2 years ago, where, there was a lot of battling in the legislature about, is there going to be some kind of reform or anything like that with insurance? And it's just an ongoing thing. So let's dive into different ways that you can lower some of these premiums and rates. So, and I'm thinking off the top of my head, like there's flood insurance, windstorm insurance,
Mhm.
just the general umbrella insurance that you have. What are some tips and tricks for people out there that they can implement or start today that could help them begin that process of lowering that burden, that expense with paying these high premium rates for insurance?
Okay, so the main thing on the home insurance would be the roof. What's your age of your roof? The newer the roof, the more options you have. It opens up a little bit lower premium. Also, the age of the home. So the newer the home, like a newly built home, the insurance is golden. It's still super cheap. I mean, you can get a homeowner's policy for like $1,000 or less. I've done some for $600, and the client says, "Is that per month?" I said, "No, it's per year." And it was a brand new home. So the newer the home, the newer the roof. Also, the area. Is your house in a coastal area? Of course, like you said, Naples, Fort Myers, Sanibel, all of those areas that have been hit by the hurricanes are going to be super expensive because apparently there's something in the weather pattern that likes them to go through that area. And it seems like the best prediction of things that can happen in their future is what happened in the past. And that's how the insurance gurus who do the rating are going to determine. So it's going to be picking an area. If you love to live on the coast, then you may have to suffer with the higher insurance premiums. So your roof, the age of the home, and the area. Also, there's ways that people can take on some of their risk themselves, and they can get a skimped down policy that may be less expensive. Meaning, if you don't have a loan, you don't have to have insurance. I never recommend it. However, if you don't have a lender, there's not anybody telling you that you have to have wind coverage, you have to have water. So if you own your home outright and you don't want to have wind, you want to bear that risk on your own, you can do that. But just know the risk and know what that means. It means if something happens from a storm, you don't have any coverage for it. In addition to like a tornado, if any other wind event happens, you still don't have coverage for that. It's not only for hurricane. So those are some things. For water damage, rising water from like the hurricane, the surge, those houses that have been hit by the massive surge multiple times probably need to build their houses up. I know the insurance companies with those insurance policies are going to start raising their rates. And I've seen flood insurance premiums like double. I mean, some of them on the coast or over there are just ridiculously expensive. And so I think they were giving credits in some sense if they were building the homes up like 4 feet. But I know that's extremely expensive and it's time consuming. But if these floods keep happening, it's how many times are the insurance companies going to keep being able to pay that? And is that homeowner going to want to keep doing that? So those are some things there. Also with your regular home, you can make sure that you're maintaining it. The more you maintain your home, the less you are to have a loss. Have your dryer vents cleaned. Dryers cause fires, not just your lint sheet, but the dryer vent on top of the home. Have that cleaned. If you're on septic, have that pumped and cleaned because your insurance doesn't cover that anyways, but it's preventing other things that can happen inside your home. If you have an area that's prone to termites, just remember your insurance does not cover termites. People always forget that. Your insurance doesn't cover termites. It doesn't cover bats, squirrels, anything that gets in there. So sealing your home off, making sure it's protected is something that can prevent something else from happening. Cut your tree limbs because trees brush against your roof. They can fall and cause roof issues and claims. The more claims we all have, the higher our premiums. If you live in a secured community, let your insurance company know that. That can lower your premium. If you have an alarm system that's monitored that you pay for, that can help lower your premium as well.
This is very insightful, Colleen. Lot of great information, and I'm taking it in, and I know everybody's taking this in. There's a lot of things I'm sure people are already accustomed to, but you're probably dropping some other tidbits that people didn't know about. One thing that comes to the top of my mind is, how with a driver's insurance, some of these companies will allow you to take like driver's education in order to help maybe lower your premium for, a Geico, Allstate, Progressive, whatever it is, because you're taking steps to make sure you're an educated driver.
Yes.
Is there anything like that with insurance for property or claims where you can show that you've trimmed the trees, you got the alarm system, you've emptied out the vent, and you have like people come by and they kind of do like quarterly inspections that help like determine and say, okay, this person's actually maintaining it. We feel like there's less risk with this person, and we feel comfortable maybe lowering the policy. Is there nothing like that with insurance?
No, sadly, but that's a great idea if they took like a course, how to be a responsible homeowner course. I feel like that's a good thing for all new homeowners and for everybody in general. We all need a refresher. There is nothing like that. But what I could suggest is they could get a home inspection every year, every couple years to show like the condition of their home and that they've been maintaining it. Also, if you trim trees, show proof to your agent or your insurance company. I trim my trees. Here's my picture. If you had the dryer vent, here's a receipt. So someone else is keeping a log of that on what you've done. And I also tell people on their rental properties, their primary, have somebody or yourself go out there and get your phone, take a picture of the outside, because pictures are worth 1,000 words because they're dated. Also inside your house, do the same thing to show what contents you have, the condition of your home. So if you come home from work and your house burned down, sadly, or has been ransacked, you were able to show what you had in there beforehand. Because, you have to advocate for yourself, sadly. These insurance companies, we love them, but at the same time, they're not for us. So we have to advocate and show, responsibility on our part too.
And Colleen, when you're talking about all these different ones, like, I hear windstorm, flood, property liability. I'm assuming that you have this all under one umbrella, or you can package it all under one umbrella.
You can try to, yes.
Okay.
Most policies, like most home policies, would cover the wind and the hurricane coverage. And liability. But if you wanted like an umbrella, like additional liability, if you have, many homes, high net worth person, they're highly recommended, meaning you should add it. But they're all not under one policy. So the typical homeowner's policy or home policy covers liability, but it doesn't cover a high enough limit for some people's liking.
Okay. All right. Well, it's good to know that is out there as an option. And you brought up something earlier too that was an important point. I remember when I think it was either Irma, when Hurricane Irma came through and went through the Keys. I remember there was just so much destruction that went through that area, and the Keys is low. It's like basically on sea level.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, I remember there was a lot of steps taken to revise the building code. And so people started building up. And so I'm sure that, that'll probably start happening more on the West Coast, Southwest Florida, where people just got to build up. And by building up, by complying with building codes, that's probably going to help insurance premiums, or at least an insurance underwriter to say, yeah, we're willing to take the risk on somebody like that because they've implemented that kind of stuff, versus somebody that doesn't do that or doesn't comply. That was an interesting point about building up, but it's a very interesting topic. And I think a lot of investors are always wondering like what to do with it, how to navigate it. Should we still continue buying? And I've heard some investors say they've stopped being in the Florida market because of insurance rates, but
Mhm.
is it really a reason to stop investing just for a 20% increase in insurance?
No, I don't think so, because I think Florida is still, even though with all the storms, everybody still wants to live here and they still want to come here and, spend time here. Um, and so the insurance is just part of it. And I feel like you have to weigh everything else out. And I always like compare it to people will pay like thousands of dollars to get the new iPhone, right? And then if their insurance is 3,000 or 4,000 a year, they're upset. But I'm like, well, that's for the whole year. And it's just, and you have to think about what it is. It's taking on the risk of your $500,000 home for this amount of money. And it's like a supply and demand thing. The more we use it, the more it's going to go up. So when we start realizing it and just, I try to educate people, realize that when we start bringing it down to an even keel where we're like, okay, I don't need to put a claim in for that. Because even if you put a claim in and it's a small claim or it's not covered, the insurance company still has to pay somebody to go and check that claim out, or, check out the property, pay somebody to send an engineer out. All of that gets passed into those costs of the insurance market. There's certain things we can prevent. Those is like, oh, if there's a leak in my toilet before it gets too big, I could probably just replace it or repair it before it starts pouring through the ceiling. And if you own rental properties, hire a management company or somebody to go out there and check on them quarterly, because hands and eyes on something is going to tell you what's going on. It can prevent something further down the road. Those are things we can prevent. Certain things we can't prevent, like, car insurance you mentioned. Well, the road conditions in Florida are not the best. They change every day. A lane's over here, now it's here. And so all of that causes confusion with new drivers to this area. And so that causes accidents. The more people here, the more accidents. So we can't really prevent that, but we can prevent how we drive. Put your phone in the back seat so you're not amped to look at it, while you're driving. Plan ahead so you have extra time so you're not in a rush getting there. Those are simple little things that we can just remember to help lower like our costs overall.
Yeah, and a great point too. I mean, think about how many people have moved here in the last 4 years. And that alone probably has changed insurance underwriters' minds about premiums, just because of how many people are here and the traffic. And even in Jacksonville, I mean, Jacksonville's blown up in the last 4 years. And so many more people here. Probably that's why insurance rates have hiked up even here as well.
Yeah, Jacksonville's busy. I mean, it's one of like the largest cities in the country or something. Yeah.
Busy. Yeah.
Yes.
And I can tell just from being here for what's now 7 years, I could
Mhm.
already tell, because it wasn't like that 7 years ago.
Mhm.
Crazy. But Colleen, great information. I think there's a lot to definitely look into, digest for people. And for those that are listening, I mean, what Colleen's basically saying is, hey, this is where the market's at right now. And the market in Florida is still hot. Yeah, you're going to be paying maybe a little bit more on the insurance, but these are also great properties, right? So, Colleen, how can people get in touch with you for your services in your industry if people need to learn more about insurance, or maybe they're buying properties and they need somebody to help them with that?
Yeah, so they can either email me or call my office. There's my contact information. Call the office, email. If I'm on the phone, I'll call you back. I'm on the phone a lot during the day, so that's the majority of my time is on phone calls. But I prefer email because I'm emailing too while I'm on the phone and trying to get everything done for everybody. And to also mention, I write in a lot of other states too. So I've reached outward in other states in the country too.
Well, tell us also what other states, because
There's a lot, so I'll probably leave some off, but I have California, sadly, Utah, Colorado, Nevada, Texas, Alabama, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia. So I've probably left some off, Illinois, Indiana, but a lot of them. And so people that are buying in this state, they buy in other states too.
Right.
And I've seen other markets with insurance are getting super expensive too. And I feel like it's because of the storms. Like they're getting high in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. Those are getting high price wise on insurance. But the markets that I see that are low are like Ohio, and their rates are pretty
Wow.
reasonable. Yeah.
Well, for those that are listening or watching, if you wanted to hear that again, you got to rewind, because I know there's a lot of people that listen to the show that are not just in the Florida market, but they're all over the country. And while we bring a lot of people on that are in the Florida market and some people that are not in the Florida market, Colleen is going in other states as well. And we hear a lot of investors that are going to Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, California. So that could be a great in for you, especially that Colleen is very on the real estate focused side with insurance. And a lot of people want to, find somebody that's in insurance that's on the real estate focus side, right? Like, you want to find somebody that's in that industry, right? That does that every day. So you definitely got to get with Colleen. Colleen, I do this segment at the end of my show called Signature Questions. I always change it up a bit with different guests, and I feel like there's a few that would really stick with you that I think would be great. Because you're a business owner, entrepreneur, delegation is a very big thing. I know it in my business. It's helped me scale. It's helped me take things off my plate. And I always think about it all the time of who's going to be able to take on that role to do something. Colleen, what element of your job would you gladly give up?
I would give up the phone calls. But I love to talk. I do love to talk, but some of them, the phone calls that I do take, I don't need to take, if you know what I mean. I could give that to somebody else. Yeah. But I'm getting better at the delegating of that. Could you call this person back and ask them that? Because I'm a talker, as you can see. So sometimes I get people and it could go on for an hour.
Yes.
So that's why I would give up.
I can relate to that so much.
Yeah.
I'm on the phone all day as well. And I can definitely tell you that, when you're able to build out processes and systems that can sift out which calls would be able to be handled by somebody that can maybe it'll be eventually filtered back to you at some point, but to be able to manage that, it's a great point because there's, whether it's setting up appointments, whether it's calendaring, whether it's the initial intake process, which was a big thing for us in the law firm for a while, because I was the one handling that all the time. And now I've delegated that to Gwen on my team, and she's the intake specialist. So, when you're able to give up those roles where it buys you more time, that's key. And I think that was a great answer on that. So Colleen, skills is very important in our industry. You got to be able to stay sharp in our industry. You got to be able to learn things with computers, software. What skills are you most proud of in your industry?
I'm proud of my typing. I'm a super fast typer, like 125 plus, and I can do it pretty accurately. I'm also proud that I can multitask, meaning I could intake an application and talk about a totally different subject. Though the older that I get, I realize I'm kind of sometimes I'm typing in what I'm saying and it's not, related. Those, and also like, my compassion to understand. And in what I mean by that is I know what this person's like already talking about before they even start saying. I know what they're doing with the property or whatever. They just don't want to say what they're doing. So psychic abilities, maybe.
I love it. Superpowers right there.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. Okay. And I'm sure that for you, just having those skills alone really just helps you because you're able to see things differently than other people on your team, and being able to type really fast is a key thing because you can knock out emails left and right. Like I'm sure you get like hundreds of emails just like me all the time. And it's just like, whoa, there's a lot of things going on here.
Yeah.
So Colleen, last signature question for you. a lot of people would ask me this kind of question whenever I'm at a speaking event or, I connect with them on the phone. People want to know, like, hey, Al, how do we work with you? What is your intake process like? What is your customer acquisition process, and how do you do it? On your end of things with insurance, what does your customer acquisition process look like?
So basically, it's pretty simple. They just reach out, call, email, and explain what they're needing. And I provide them information. If I can help them, provide an insurance quote, or if they just need information or advice, I can do that. And also, if I don't have, let's say, a good market for them, I'll try and find them somebody that does. And if I don't know the answer, I'll try and find somebody that can. Because again, I don't know everything.
Hey, it's great. Yeah, we all don't, like, in my business, I'm not handling family law. I'm not handling criminal law. I'm not handling all these other industries, right? And so if somebody's asking, hey, do you have somebody for this? I'm thinking, well, yeah, I don't handle it, but here's somebody that might handle it, right? And so being able to have those systems dialed in for yourself is huge. And I'm sure you can relate to this. We have, on our end, we have a checklist, right? We have an intake process. We need to have certain items be able to say, hey, this is the kind of case that we're looking at. Here's what we're looking at. Hey, we all need to get on a call together. And so when you build those things on the front end, that will help qualify the lead or the deal when you're able to review everything. And so customer acquisition and having that process dialed in with your team is more important than ever, especially if you're building out and scaling. And so great answer on that with you. Colleen, this has been fantastic. I'm so happy we got to connect, and I'm so happy. Yeah. Ryan Kopchick out there. Ryan, he's the man.
Thanks, Ryan. He's amazing.
Ryan. He's amazing. And he's running a title company, Southeast Professional Title. And, it's always great to connect with other industry leaders like you out there, especially you're in the Orlando market, but you guys go in a lot of other states. So just want to say, Colleen, thank you so much for coming on, and plug your podcast for us, please, because we want to make sure people can listen to your stuff that you bring on guests, and I'm sure you talk about insurance on there as well.
I do a little bit. I try to just chat. So that's why it's called Chats with Colleen, because I talk about insurance 24/7. So it's just to bring in other guests to help them, with their business, promote that or share their stories. But it's all about, like you said, bringing my guests on to help them. And it's a lot of fun. So reach out. Always on. I'm trying to get Ryan to come on and anybody else. Yeah, Ryan, it's a public shout out. Come on.
Let's go, Ryan. Come on, get on.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, definitely people got to check that out. And thanks again so much for sharing all this valuable information on insurance, business development, and goals. And we definitely got to connect again in Orlando. And I'm sure I'll see you at an event down there soon. So last thing I'll say is final words, final thoughts, Colleen Pacheco.
Final words. Take care of your properties and be safe out there, because you never know what could happen. It only takes an instant.
That's it. Well, there you have it, everybody. We're good here. And thank you, Colleen, so much for coming on the Al Nicoletti Show.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, Colleen. All right, everybody, you heard it right there from Colleen Pacheco. She is doing insurance, not just in Florida, but she listed off several states. I mean, I was impressed with that. There was like more than one state. And I'm thinking of so many investors that are investing not just in Florida, but Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Texas, California, Illinois, that can really benefit from somebody like Colleen and their experience. And she just didn't just start this. It's in her family bloodline. Like, she's been doing this for years, and people before her. So if you missed any of this episode with her talking about where the insurance industry is at, what you need to know, how did the hurricanes impact things with premiums, go back, check it out, and scan the QR code on the top of the screen right there. You'll get all of our link trees and all of our information. You don't want to miss it. And it's another Wednesday night in the Al Nicoletti Show studio. So we are so happy you all joined. Stay tuned next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. You don't want to miss it. Another banger on the show. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.